From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, her vet voice.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome tonight to Her Vet Voice. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for everyone subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. It's definitely a pleasure to be here tonight. We are going to be talking about the discharge upgrade. We're going to explain the discharge upgrade and what veterans need to know. Natural is here with us tonight for moral support. This is not her expertise. So thank you, Natural, for being here and joining me tonight. And for everybody that's in the comments, thank you so much. So, hey, Spencer. Hey, 66T Love. How are you? So thousands of veterans leave the military with what they're called like a less than honorable or a discharge. And many veterans believe that this is the end of the road. They can't get any benefits. This is not going to be a good thing for me because I left the military. I have this bad discharge and I'm not going to be able to do anything. So this is where the discharge upgrade comes in. Okay, here is the truth. You can get a discharge upgrade. They are some different things that you're going to have to do before you can get the discharge upgrade, but you have to be willing to put in the work. So some veterans may actually qualify for a discharge upgrade, and then they simply don't even know that they qualify because there have been changes to the DoD regulation. Today, we're going to break down what a discharge upgrade is, who qualifies for it, the steps you can take if you believe your discharge was unfair or connected to your services. If you are another veteran that you know has the general or other than honorable, this is the information that you guys want to tune into, okay? So, let's talk about the different types of discharges that you can get when you get out the military. I know everybody knows about the honorable discharge and the dishonorable discharge, the uncharacterization, the general discharge, and the other than honorable. And before I get into it, Natural, can you talk a little bit about, before we get into the discharges, when a veteran has the other than honorable discharge, do they still qualify for benefits? Before we get into this, because I want them to understand that even though they have certain discharges, they can qualify for benefits.
Good evening. Yes, you can qualify for benefits if your discharge from the military was other than honorable. However, if you have a other than honorable and then the code on there says misconduct or severe conduct, the VBA will do what we call an administrative decision, where they will review the circumstances on what you were discharged from. They will review the actions that were taken, and if they deem them as a severe misconduct under for VBA, even though you have a other than honorable, that misconduct that is so severe would disbar you from benefits, depending on the type of misconduct it falls under.
Okay. So when you talk about misconduct, let's give them a couple of examples because I already know they're going to ask. When you say misconduct, what do you mean?
They could be drug abuse,
Okay,
going AWOL, stealing, missing movement, what else? Missing movement, disrespect, not being at your post when you're supposed to be. That's just a couple, but
yes, and that's mainly the forefront of a lot of misconduct discharges. Is usually in the same bundle of what you just mentioned. So let's talk about what is a discharge. A discharge is when your military discharge status is reviewed, and a discharge upgrade is when your military status is reviewed and potentially changed. Okay. For example, you can go from an other than honorable to a general, or you can go from a general to an honorable. Okay. This can have a major impact when it comes to eligibility. Example, for VA benefit, for healthcare, for GI Bill, and other veteran services. Your discharge status matters, but it's not always permanent. Okay. There's so much different wording that goes around when people get out. People tell them, word on the social media streets, oh, you got a bad discharge, then you're not going to be able to get benefits. You're not going to be able to get your GI Bill. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. It's just foolishness. It's just foolishness. It's not that. Where's the proof? Where is the proof? So you guys have to be able to do the research, get the documentation that you need in order to get your discharge upgrade. Okay. The key details when it comes to upgrading your discharge is eligibility. You have to be eligible. So you can apply for general, under honorable conditions, other than honorable, or bad conduct discharge. And the common ground to get your discharge upgraded is due to mental health conditions, PTSD, TBI, medical sexual trauma, sexual orientation, don't ask, don't tell, or improper discharge. Let me just tell you guys something. Sometimes they are improper discharges. I know that you feel like that's something that's unheard of, but sometimes they are improper discharges. Okay. Who will qualify for a discharge? That's the question a lot of people ask. I don't even think that I qualify for a discharge. How can I do this? Or I never even looked into the fact that I can qualify for a discharge. There is a part that many veterans don't know when it comes to qualifying for a discharge. You may qualify for a discharge if your discharge was connected to a condition or certain circumstances. I'm going to say that again. You may qualify for a discharge upgrade if your discharge was connected to certain conditions or circumstances. It does not mean that I can wake up one day and decide I want to get a discharge and it's not connected to anything. It has to be connected to certain conditions or circumstances. Like I mentioned before, if you have been diagnosed with PTSD, if you have medical sexual trauma, if you have a TBI, if you have any mental health conditions, if it was unjust and it was unequitable, you can qualify for a discharge upgrade. Here in recent years, there has been an increase in recognition that shows that some veterans were discharged due to conditions that were not properly understood at the time, meaning that the command decided that they were going to put in for the veteran or the soldier to be discharged. There was not enough investigation going on behind the scenes, and it was not properly understood, and the service member or the veteran was discharged under those unjust charges. Okay. Because of that, it has opened up the door for many veterans to apply for the discharge. So when we look at the discharge, there are two main boards that review discharge upgrades. And I hope you guys are listening attentively to this. There is the Discharge Review Board, which is acronym at the DRB. And then there's the BCMR, which is the Board for Correction of Military Records. Okay. So if you were discharged 15 years ago, then you would be able to submit your application to the DRB. If you were discharged over 15 years ago, then you would have to submit your application to the BCMR, which is the Board for Correction of Military Records. The Board for Correction of Military Records takes cases that were over 15 years old, and they also handle the complex corrections. So The discharge review board pretty much reviews your discharge because it's less simplified, and you have the opportunity to submit your medical records and all the documentation to them, while the board for correction of records that handles the more complex situations. Okay, I hope you guys are tracking. If I'm talking a little bit too fast, let me know. If you guys got questions, put your questions in the chat and we can answer those at the end. So when we talk about upgrading your discharge, this is not a fast process. This is a very lengthy, long process. Some people I know have been waiting for a year or more. Okay, they have been waiting for a year or more. Some people have an opportunity to apply and they don't apply. And then when they do apply, they think that it should happen overnight. The Discharge Review Board and the Board for Correction of Military Records takes a very long time. Very long time. It is not a fast process. And this is why you have to have the correct information to make sure that when you submit your application, that you have substantial evidence to support the reason why you want your discharge upgrade. I'm telling you right now, I have seen where veterans just decided that they want to go online, fill out the form, and guess what? They got nothing. No discharge, no overturn, nothing. Just a simple letter back, because they're going to send you a letter telling you that they have not made any changes to it, and you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be for an entire year to be disappointed because you don't have substantial evidence. Natural, you wanted to say something?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about what you need and the process. And I'm going to explain this in very simple terms. And then I want to pull up the VA website so I can show you exactly where you can go to do your application and what it needs. Okay. So you are going to gather your records. And when I say gather your records, you're going to gather your DD-214, your service records, and you're going to gather your military records. So when I talk about gathering your service records, I'm talking about gathering every bit of documentation that you have or you're holding on to when it comes to your time in service. So if you have a letter of recommendation, if you had a letter from a person that you worked with before, if you had any kind of medals, if you had any kind of those things, those are the things that you are going to want to gather to put together for your discharge upgrade. Okay. And then your medical records. So I know I mentioned earlier that if you have PTSD, if you had MST, if you had a TBI or any mental health conditions, or you feel like you were unjustly discharged, this is where this information comes in. Okay. So you are going to go in your medical records, and even with you seeing an outside doctor after being discharged, you are going to gather that information so that you can get what you need for your discharge upgrade. Okay. The discharge upgrade process is a very simple process, but you need to have the correct documentation. You cannot expect to just put anything together and throw it out there. You are going to need to make sure that you are prepared for your discharge upgrade. Okay. If you are going to do the discharge review board, you are going to fill out the form DD form 293. Okay. If you are going to submit your discharge upgrade to the board for correction of records, you are going to use DD form 149. There are two different DD forms that you are going to use. Okay. The DD form that you're going to use if you were out 15 years or less is DD form 293. And the DD form that you are going to use if you were out 15 years or more is DD Form 149. While you are filling out your form, I would suggest that you are talking to your family, you are getting your medical documentation together, you are getting your lay statements. And guess what, guys? You can also use a nexus statement, a nexus letter to submit to the board for your discharge upgrade. And here's why you can use a nexus letter. The nexus letter can be used where the provider is able to explain to the board how your medical condition that you currently hold had any kind of impact on the choices you made to get discharged. Yes, you can get a nexus letter where the provider can speak about what diagnosis you had based on how long you've had it, what kind of effect it has had on your military service. And I know that you guys did not know that, but you can get a nexus letter. Your goal is to show that your discharge was either improper or it was inquitable. This is where evidence matters. In your discharge, evidence is the most important thing. You are going to have to show the board that you made a decision based on some type of disability that you have. That means that due to you being disabled, you made a choice. And that choice was not based on you just being in your right mind. If you have PTSD or you had MST or you had a TBI, all those diagnoses can have an effect on the decisions you make while you were in service. Okay, let's talk about some of the common mistakes that I see a lot of veterans do when they are submitting their discharge upgrade. One, they don't provide enough evidence. They don't. Here, when you are doing a discharge upgrade, less is not more. More is more. So I know when you're submitting your VA claim, sometimes they tell you less is more. When you are doing a discharge upgrade, you need information. You need information. You have to be able to explain how your condition impacted your service. Okay? You have to be able to explain how your condition impacted your service. And I know that you guys heard me earlier when I said you can get a nexus letter. And this is where the nexus letter comes into play. The nexus letter will explain how your condition impacted your service. Another common mistake that veterans make when it comes to discharge upgrades, they wait too long. They wait way too long. If you're waiting more than 15 years, then you're crossing the path for it to be more complex, and then it's going to take longer. Okay? So you have to be able to have enough evidence. Go to your doctor, get your family members, go back to your battle buddies, get them to write statements for you. Go back to your leaders that you had before, get them to write statements. Go look in your medical, your military records to see all the good things that you have done. You need all that evidence in order to show the board that based on your disability, you made a bad decision, but here I am showing you that it is because of this disability, and I don't want you to hold that against me. That's what you're doing to convince the board. If you're comfortable sharing, you can drop in the chat what type of discharge you receive or what questions you want to hear about discharge. So I know for some people it is embarrassing. I have done work with some people who struggle with judgment when it comes to their discharge because they don't want to share with others what type of discharge they make or they receive. Or, somebody asks him, well, what are you doing with your GI Bill, right? And they don't answer because they don't want other people to know, what they receive, what kind of discharge they receive, and what kind of effect. Listen, don't be embarrassed, because the information that you are sharing can help somebody else. Okay. A bad discharge in the military is not the end of the world. It's not. It's not the end of the world. Okay. I have seen people who have, been discharged uncharacterized, and they're almost at 100%. They're at 90%. Okay. Because they went back and did a discharge upgrade. So do not allow the opinion of other people to deter you from getting a discharge upgrade. A discharge upgrade can change your future. And a lot of veterans don't realize that even without a discharge upgrade, the VA can do a character of discharge. Natural, can you talk a little bit about the character of discharge? Do you know about the character of discharge?
Yes, the COD that is done for benefits to determine
Yes.
if you are eligible for benefits or health care.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you submit a claim and it is found that you were discharged from the service with a bad conduct discharge, or like we stated earlier, a other than honorable, but you had a severe misconduct discharge, what they will do, they will review your military personnel records and look at if you were court-martialed, they will look at the proceedings from that. They will look at the offense that you were charged with, and then they will determine whether you are either barred, because serious misconduct, you are automatically barred from benefits.
Okay.
They can look, and if you have, okay, let me back up a little bit. So if you have, say you have 3 periods of service and your last period of service happens to be a bad discharge,
Okay.
that doesn't automatically bar you from benefits from your first 2. But what would have to happen is any condition that you're claiming had to have happened prior to the bad discharge.
Okay.
So we would have to review your service treatment records to look to see if anything that you're claiming happened during your honorable periods. Once the COD is completed, once the COD is initiated, they will send you a letter. They will ask you for your take on what happened, and you submit that to the VBA for them to take into consideration your part of deciding whether you should get benefits or not. If they deem you not, I've seen it where they've deemed them barred from benefits, but they will award Chapter 17, which is for healthcare benefits. I have seen that for bad periods of service. But once they've made that decision is kind of final for that period of service, unless you do what her vet is talking about and trying to get your upgraded service overturned.
All right. Thank you for that, Natural. So when you look at the character of discharge, the key points here is the VA reviews the service to see if you are eligible, right? To see if you are eligible for benefits. This also, Natural, this applies to OTH discharges, right? As well, the OTH discharges.
Not all OTHs. We consider them general under general, but if there's something on there that, like I said, that it says misconduct, serious offense, then that will prompt a COD to be done. If
Okay.
it's just a other than honorable, and it could have been like failure to adapt or got out on a family care plan or something like that, that doesn't fall under COD. That would just be like other than honorable under general, which you would still be able to get benefits. These serious misconducts would be, like we said earlier, if you were you had, like, say you got some DUIs, or you were on some serious drugs, you missed moving, family violence, you committed a theft from the PX, you 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 failed to follow orders from a superior, things of that nature. And it was like serious. It wasn't just one time you failed to follow orders from a superior or insubordination. It was like multiple times. And then they will go in and look at your evaluations to see kind of what happened to get you there. Some people do have that where they fail to adapt to the service, and you will see markers within their service treatment workers where they will go to mental health and they'll say, I just don't want to be in the service anymore. I feel like this, I'm depressed. That is a way to support your discharge getting overturned, because there were indicators that you were having problems in service due to mental health, and then they still chaptered you out under other than honorable or a dishonorable discharge or whatever the case may be.
Thank you for that. So how long does the TOD take?
TOD doesn't take long. That is done typically by, I think, our VSRs, but it doesn't really take that long. It can be done within 30 days.
Okay. All right. So let me just say this, and if you have a question, you can put it in your chat. Love. You can put it in the chat. Somebody asked, how do you know if you know your character discharge is done or not?
So once the character discharge is done, they will send you a letter of alerting you on what they have decided, and they will explain in that you may be barred from benefits, VA benefits, but you were awarded healthcare benefits for anything that we deem to be service connected. If you're barred from benefits and healthcare, the letter will tell you everything, and then it would also give you the information on where to submit for upgrades and things of that nature.
Thank you for that. Some veterans do not need a discharge upgrade first, because they may still qualify for VA benefits through the character of discharge review. Correct, Natural? So sometimes you don't need the discharge upgrade. You need to wait to see what is the outcome of your character of discharge review with the VA to see if you qualify or not. Because sometimes you guys take the cart before the horse and you rush to do things. I suggest that you do the VA, you go through the VA, you do the COD first so that you'll know if you qualify or not. Then if you don't qualify, I suggest that you go ahead and do your discharge upgrade. Because sometimes you guys rush so fast, I'm going to apply for a discharge upgrade, when in actuality, you already qualify for benefits.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people, they think we don't recognize other than honorable, and we do.
Yeah.
Like I said, but if you know that you had a bad conduct discharge, what I would recommend is probably before you file, so you don't have to go through all the COD and getting notified that you're barred from benefits. Try to upgrade your discharge prior to filing. Yes. So that way, once you get that upgrade, then you can file. They still may do a COD, not sure. But if it shows that they overturned it and gave you an honorable or other than honorable, you're golden. Go ahead and file the claim. But to save yourself some time of, you got a bad discharge, you file a claim, they deny you based on your character discharge, you're barred from benefits. Now you're frustrated. Now you're going to start the process of trying to get your character discharge upgraded, and that process can take maybe 1 or 2 years to even get done. So for me, I would probably start working on my my upgrade prior to me even trying to file a claim, to save myself some time and grief on going through the process all over again. Now, like I said, other than honorable is looked at as a general discharge. We do grant benefits on that unless you have that misconduct identifier on your 214, and then that will prompt them to do a COD.
Okay, thank you for that. That was good information. I hope you guys are really taking this in. So I know you guys probably didn't ask, but we are going to talk about what is the difference between improper and inequitable. Okay, because this is what the board actually looks like when it comes to upgrading your discharge, when it comes to if you're saying that you were improperly or inequitably discharged. Okay, so when you look at improper, the word improper, it means if the rules and the laws were not followed. So kind of like I just woke up one day, I'm angry, my soldier has made a bad mistake, I'm going to go ahead and say we're chaptering this out and we didn't do any investigation, we did not follow the law. Okay, if there were procedural errors in the investigation, that's what is called an improper investigation. If your rights was violated, meaning that you were unjustly discharged, that's what is called an improper discharge. These are the things that the board looks for when you are filing for a discharge upgrade. So when we look at inequitable, it means that your discharge was too harsh. I know you guys are going to be shocked at saying this, but I have seen a few times, and I can count more on one hand, where the board has come back because a veteran was discharged too harsh, meaning that the person who discharged them used their anger and their power to make sure that they gave them the worst of the worst. And it happens. And I know you guys know it happens. Another reason for an inequitable discharge is when the command did not consider your PTSD, your MST, or your TBI. And they are some commands who don't care what you have going on, how it's working. Their main goal is to discharge you. The board does not, and is not happy when that happens. And I don't know what the court case was, but there was some recent happenings back, I think in 2020, where a military soldier was discharged improper, and the board had to overturn, and the soldier wanted to get back in the military, and that caused a whole lot of investigation going on. So this is why many changes were made when it comes to discharge upgrades. You are not just telling your story, you're proving the discharge was either improper or inequitable. So you're going to have documentation to support it. So if this means going back to looking up laws, looking up rules, doing research, you're going to have to do all that to prove to the board that you were improperly discharged. Okay? When you're doing a discharge upgrade, it requires work. You are going to have to do lots of research. You're going to have to spend time looking up rules and regulations. You're going to go back. You're going to do investigation. It's pretty much you're going to be investigating your whole case all over again. Okay, let's talk about the power of medical evidence, because when I see veterans doing discharges, they don't understand how powerful your medical record is and your evidence that you're going to submit is going to have when it comes to your discharge upgrade. Your VA medical records play a major role in your discharge upgrade application process. Every single document or every single doctor that you have been to, you need to make sure that you provide those documents, especially if it is you seeing a therapist, a psychiatrist, anybody that has any kind of plays a part in your mental health. You need to have those medical records available. You need to also have a private doctor opinion. Okay, if you don't have a lot of substantial evidence, I would suggest that you go outside of the VA and get a private provider to help you to build the momentum or the documentation for your discharge. You also need to have a mental health diagnosis. If you are sitting at home and think that you're going to submit some lay statements, your DD-214, and your family's going to write a letter and send it to the board, and they're just going to say, oh, little Sally Lou is just as nice as can be, and we're just going to upgrade the discharge. No, it's not. You're going to have a mental health diagnosis, and you're going to have nexus statements. And I'm going to use this phrase that you guys really don't like, at least as likely as not. Because if your condition contributes to your discharge, you need medical evidence connecting the two. So you need your MST documentation, you need your notes from your therapist, you need all of that to connect the dots to say, well, Tasha experienced this caused Tasha to do this. The dots have to be connected. The same thing when it comes to the 3 elements when you're filing a claim, the same thing it comes to a discharge upgrade. Okay? So a lot of people don't understand how huge having a mental health diagnosis it can be when it comes to your discharge upgrade. This is huge, and most people don't explain it as well as I am in this moment. Your PTSD, your TBI, your MST, and your mental health condition, the military now recognizes that some behaviors leading to discharge may have been caused by your service-related condition. I'm going to say it again. The military has now recognized that some behaviors leading to your discharge may have been caused by your service connection. That is huge. That is huge. This is where the veteran get to tell the story. Okay? This is where you get to tell your story. You have to tell your story, but you need to have it structured. It has to be a structured story. Okay? Your story needs to structure. You need to tell what happened in service, when the symptoms started, how it affected your behavior, and how it led to your discharge. Now, this is not the typical one-page letter that you're going to submit when you're submitting your lay statements. This is not. This is going to be a letter, a statement where you put your heart and soul into telling the board and working to convince them that what you had, what you experienced caused this situation to happen. I want you guys to understand it. What happened, when the symptoms occurred, how it affected your behavior, how it led to your discharge. You have to connect the dots. You can't just tell your story. You can't just decide, I'm going to write a letter and just it has to connect. So let's take, for instance, MST, because I've dealt with a lot of MST veterans who are working on getting their discharge upgrade. So you can talk about what happened in service. And I know the reason why I'm talking about MST is because a lot of MST is not reported. Okay. Maybe they told a friend, maybe a friend was there, when it happened. There's not a lot of details when it comes to MST. So here is how you can connect the dots when it comes to MST. You're going to write your letter talking about what happened to you with the MST. Okay. Then you're going to talk about after the situation happened in service, when did the symptoms started psychologically, right? So for instance, example, January of 2020, MST happened. I didn't report it. Life just started to go down the drain. I just didn't want to, partake in work anymore. And in July of 2020, I went AWOL for 2 weeks. Okay. This is when the symptoms started, how it affected your behavior. So MST happened. I went AWOL. I got depressed. How it led. So me being AWOL, it led to my discharge. Do you see how I'm connecting the dots here? And I hope you guys are understanding how I'm explaining this. So you have to be able to connect the dots. You can't have any loose ends because you can't leave any question in the board's mind unanswered. This is important. It's imperative that you connect the dots. Your statement of service to symptoms to behavior to discharge. That's how I tell my clients. Service to symptoms to behavior to discharge. That's how we do it. 4 different paragraphs of writing your letter. The timeline matters. You cannot go rambling around talking about up here the service, and then you go into behavior, and then you go into discharge, and then you want to talk about symptoms. You have to have a solid timeline when it comes to upgrading your discharge. The key points here: 15-year limit, you are going to the DRB. The BCMR, which is the Board of Correction, they have they're a little bit more stricter than the DBR. And the Board of Correction, they really want justification as to why it took you so long to apply for your upgrade. So if you've been out 15 years or more, or say you've been out 16 years, your discharge upgrade will go to the BCMR. And guess what? They want information as to why did it take Tasha so long to apply for this discharge upgrade? What took her so long? Because they want to know. And you're going to have some medical documentation, some letters, something, because they are much more stricter. So I know that sometimes you got discharged, you have a bad discharge and you want to upgrade it, and you feel like my back is against the wall. Life is just not for me. I don't even know why I messed up. Life is just so much. I can't get any benefits. I need to use my GI Bill. I have people who call talking about I'm trying to get a home loan because life is just not lifing because of this discharge, and you want to upgrade it. Not all cases are about upgrading your discharge, okay? Veterans can also request a change in the reason for separation, okay? Meaning that you can ask for them to revisit the reason for your separation. You can ask for a change in your reenlistment code. I get people all the time that say, can I go back in the military? What do I have to do to go back in the military? Some people can get their RE code adjusted. But sometimes the issue isn't just the discharge, it's what's written in your record. And this is where I want Natural to talk about how what's written in your record has not only an effect on your claim, but it has an effect on your discharge.
Okay, so when we look at service connection, we don't look for basically things that you did wrong. But sometimes when people do things like, oh, I was drinking, I was out partying, and I was in a motor vehicle accident, and it caused me to have a back injury. I had lacerations to my face. I broke my arm. Those things we will take into consideration because it happened, but the event that caused it could be considered a misconduct. That's I forget what it's called. It's unwillful misconduct. Because you decided to go drink and you essentially caused those injuries to yourself, not the military, but you by your action. So if we see something like that, then we would have to try to determine whether that condition happened due to a military event, or was that disability caused by your misconduct, or well, I ain't gonna say misconduct, your event that you caused yourself to go, drinking and had the accident. But when it comes to the rating board, typically the COD is already done, and we will either deny it or we will grant what we call Chapter 17 for benefits. And we will explain to you why we're not granting it, why you're barred for benefits, and it will be written all out in your narrative, and we will give you information on how to upgrade, how to appeal, how to do supplementals and things of that nature. But if you are deemed not to be barred from benefits, you're wasting time doing a supplemental claim.
Say it again.
So if you're barred from benefits, you are wasting your time doing a supplemental claim. I would change lanes and go try to get an upgrade. But also I wanted to say another some veterans did under the don't ask, don't tell policy.
Yes.
They were separated from service also. So those individuals can also seek upgrades on their discharge from service.
Yes. So I wanted to share my screen here with the NPRC website to show you guys the correction of record and what it entails. Okay. Like I talked about before, the DD form 149 is the application for the correction of military records. And you can either download the form or save it and fill it out. Okay. If you want to submit your application and for the DD 293, you can also do the same thing. Okay. So I want to bring this up here because I talked earlier about the correction of military records. The Secretary of a military department, acting as through the BCMR, has the authority to change any medical record when necessary to correct an error or to remove injustice. A correction board may consider an application for correction of a military record, including a review of discharge issued by court martials. The veteran, survivor, or legal representative generally must file a request for the correction within 3 years after discovery of an alleged error or injustice. Remember, I talked about this doesn't have anything to do with changing your discharge. This is if there's an error. So if you want it corrected, you have to have filed within 3 years after the discovery of the error or after 3 years when you get out. Okay. The board may excuse failure to file when the prescribed time. However, if it finds it would be in the interest of justice to do so, it is an applicant's responsibility to show why the filing of the application was delayed and why it would be in the interest of justice of the board to consider it despite the delay. To justify any correction, it is necessary to show the satisfaction of the board that the alleged entry or omission in the record was an error or unjust. Applications should include all available evidence, such a signed statement of witnesses or a brief argument supporting to the requested correction. Applications may be made through the DD Form 149, which is available at your VA office. So before I go into the representation, let's talk about the review of discharges. And I want you guys to read this with me. I didn't want to just tell it to you. I want you guys to be able to see exactly how it works. Each of the military services maintain a discharge review board with authority to change, correct, or modify discharges or dismissals that are not issued by a sentence of a general court martial. The board has no authority to address medical discharges. I want you guys to see this because I get so many people. I should have been med boarded. Oh my God. Somebody said I can go back and they can med board me. We see it here plain as day. Okay. The board has no authority to address medical discharges. the veteran, or if the veteran is deceased or incompetent, the surviving spouse or next of kin legal representative may apply for a review of discharge by writing the military department concerned using the form DD 293. The form can be obtained at the VA office. However, if the discharge was more than 15 years ago, the veteran must petition the appropriate service for the BCMR using the 149, which is discussed in the correction of medical records in the booklet. Discharge awarded as a result of a continuous period of unauthorized absence in excess of 180 days makes persons ineligible for VA benefits regardless of the action taken by the discharge review board. So you guys see it. If you have been AWOL, okay, for more than 180 days, you're not getting no benefits. Regardless of the action taken by the discharge review board, unless the VA determines that there were compelling circumstances for the absence. Boards for the correction of military records may also consider such cases. Veterans with disability incurred or aggravated during military active duty military service may qualify for medical or related benefits regardless of separation and characterization of service. Veterans separated administratively under honorable conditions may request that their discharge be reviewed for possible recharacterization, provided they file their appeal within 15 years from the date of separation. Okay, so if you were separated administratively under honorable conditions, you may request your discharge to be reviewed for possible recharacterization, and it has to be done within the 15 years of you getting separated. I wanted to show you guys that so you will see it for yourself. This is why you have to pay attention to the timing when it comes to when you are being discharged. So let's talk about, and we're going to get into questions shortly. Let's talk about if you are approved. So after you've done everything, you filed, you've waited, you submitted your evidence, you've connected the dots, you've did everything that you are supposed to. You went to your hearing, or you're doing a paper review. You have the option of a records review, no appearance, and a lot of people choose that, or you have a personal hearing, which you go before the board, and that can strengthen your case as well. Sometimes showing up and telling your story in person makes a difference. I'm going to say this again. You have the option of hearing versus a paper review. Okay? The record review is no appearance, and it's very faster. The personal hearing, you can appear before the board, and that can strengthen your case. Sometimes showing up and telling your story in person can make a difference when it comes to your discharge upgrade. I hope you guys really, really hear what I say, because sometimes you guys just want to put pieces of paper together and be like, okay, I submitted it and that's it. Sometimes you have to show up. Sometimes you have to be there and speak up for yourself. Okay? So what happens if you get approved or denied? If you get approved, your discharge was upgraded, you can then be eligible for benefits. If you get denied, you can reapply with new evidence. If you get denied, you can then reapply with new evidence. A denial is not always the end. It may mean that you need stronger evidence for your discharge upgrade. So if you file your discharge upgrade and you got denied, you just need stronger medical evidence. It could mean that you need a diagnosis. It can mean you need more medical evidence. It can mean that you're not connecting the dots. It can mean a whole lot of things. When you get denied, the board will send you a letter. They will send a letter to you, okay, and telling you why you were denied. So if a denial is not the end, and I want to keep saying that denial is the end. I get so many people like, they already denied me. Okay, so you're just going to take it? Or are you going to get up and you're going to fight? You have to be able to fight for what you deserve. If you feel like you were unjustly discharged, or if you feel like your TBI, PTSD, or MSD had an effect on the decision you made and you were dishonorably discharged, then guess what? Get up and fight. You can take a break, but you cannot quit. So I know that sometimes it can be a little shameful about your discharge, but what you don't realize is that you're not the only person experiencing this. And the treatment that you receive and what you don't realize is that your experience deserves to be reviewed fairly. So if you get denied and you want to give up, you are giving up the opportunity to be reviewed fairly, because guess what? The person that reviewed your file before might not be the person to review your file when you resubmit it. You have to have a different thinking. Okay? So you have to change your way of thinking. The process is not about rewriting your history, it's about correcting it. So you're not rewriting what kind of discharge you have, you're correcting what is about to come. Okay? It is challenging. It is a lot. It is a lot, but you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to put your head down. You're going to have to do some research. You are going to have to work on your discharge upgrade. It is not going to fall into your lap. It is not. Every day that you go home or whatever, you're going to talk about it. You are going to work on it. You are going to put some effort into it. You're going to have to gather the documentation. You're going to get your service records. You're going to get your character references. You're going to write a personal statement. You're going to connect the dots. Those are the things that you have to do. These two forms are the mandatory forms. The DD-293 is mandatory. You have to have that. If you don't fill out the right form, you are not even going to get looked at. Write a detailed personal statement, okay? Write a statement. Choose if you want to go before the board personally, or do you want to write something to the board, or you want to show up with your suit on and show them, this is what I am. This is who I am. What I did in my past does not define me, but I made a decision in my past due to a mental health diagnosis. But here I am asking you to give me a chance to prove you that I can do this. You can do it. Do not give up. Do not give in. And guess what? A delay and a denial should not stop you. You are going to keep applying until you win. Nothing worth having is ever easy. And if you feel like you were unjustly discharged, that's more even reason to fight. Okay? That's more even reason to fight, because you know what? We know sometimes these commands, they don't care about people. If they have a vendetta out for you, they're going to do their best to sabotage your future. And if you have the opportunity, because somebody sabotaged your past, don't let them sabotage your future. The board can make your future bright. Fight for what is yours. Stop giving up so easily. Okay? The same way you're fighting for your disability claim is the same way you need to fight for your discharge upgrade. Guess what? It requires a lot of writing. It requires a lot of research. It requires deep thought. It requires medical evidence. It is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Okay? You have to be able to do it. Don't rely on no VSO. Don't rely on no accredited agent. Don't rely on anybody else to do what you need to do for yourself. The same way you do with your VA claim is the same way you do with your discharge upgrade. Some veterans carry the shame of the discharge. They carry it. But what they don't realize is that their experience deserves to be reviewed fairly. And this is where the board comes into play. And I'm going to give you guys a little story about when I was medically discharged from the military. I was medically discharged. I I was held over approximately 2 years past my ETS date, waiting to be medically discharged. When I got medically discharged, I received 0%, meaning that I would get severance pay and the military just sent me on my way. So I was defeated because I didn't expect to be 0%. I thought that I was going to be medically discharged with at least 30% where I can have, a future with my family. One day I was sitting on my couch and I saw the mailman coming up to my door. He knocked on my door and he said, I have a package from the Department of the Army and he needed me to sign for it. And I said to myself, why is the Department of the Army messing with me? I mean, I'm out, I'm living my life, I'm doing my thing. I didn't even apply for disability benefits because I was just through with it. Well, come to find out, about 7,400 military members who were discharged with 0%, the board had to go back and reevaluate those service members. And I end up getting a higher percentage and medically retired. And the letter that was sent to our homes, we could not sue the government because the people who were reviewing our discharge had some kind of issue or they were biased, but we never knew the full detail behind it. But I said all that to say this. Sometimes waiting it out and seeing what's to come can be the best solution. But if you are sometimes you're waiting too long. Get up and do something about it. Okay? Get up and make things happen. Get up and do your discharge upgrade today. Do not sit in sorrow waiting for it to fall in your lap. It's going to happen for you just like it happened for me. You can do it. You are able to do it. All right. I know that a lot of people I talk to, they say, one thing, I wish that somebody had told me about a discharge upgrade after I got out, before the 15-year mark. If you know somebody that got out with an honorable, a general, an uncharacterized discharge, talk to them about a discharge upgrade. Do not keep this information that you received tonight for yourself. Share it with somebody else. You can do it. You can help them in any way that they can be helped. Do it. Share the information about a discharge. It's a tedious process, but it's worth it. The smiles that I see on veterans' face when they share that they got a discharge, it brings so much joy to my heart because the mental diagnosis that they have does not determine their future. All right. Anything natural before we get to questions?
Yes, I would just like to say, far as the VBA side, once the discharge is upgraded, the VBA will then change your status to reflect the new status. Basically, you will go from, if you had general, just to honorable, bad discharge to honorable, and that will result in, if you got denied prior, records review, go back, it could possibly go back into, retroactive pay or something like that. If we can find that the discharge was given in error and it's upgraded, then all the claims that you had can be reconsidered. Under the other than honorable or under the bad conduct discharge. And you can file a new claim and get it readjudicated. And like I said, in some cases, you may qualify for retroactive pay if it was given in error. And then the most important thing, with the upgrade, you get your GI Bill back. So it's important to, like she said, if you did get a bad conduct or discharge, just try to go in and follow the notes that she said do. and that way, you can get yourself eligible for benefits. I think it's worth a shot. If you don't try, you'll never know. But good
Correct.
luck to those who are out there trying to get the upgrade. Reach out to Her Vet's Voice if you need help with that. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Hey, FF.
Oh, my bad. I'm out the way at the end. Hi.
No, we're not finished.
No,
We just
no.
we
I
just
was
got
just saying,
finished talking about if there anything that you want to tune in with discharge upgrades or any pointers, you're not late. We're not at the end.
I sent you some notes
Oh, you
on
did?
TikTok.
hey, FF, how are you?
I'm good, Natural. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, natural. I just seen your text message. I didn't even know. I'm just running. Mm. So FF gave up some good points. She said that the character of discharge review would not change your DD 214. The review will only affect whether if you're eligible for certain VA benefits based on your service. So if you want to change your DD 214, you're going to have to apply to the Board of Correction. Okay? So the character of discharge is not going to change your DD 214. That is a good point.
That is correct. It doesn't change you. The COD does not.
I have been substituted on my father's old claim that he never got credited for. Additional years was added to my father's claim.
I'm sorry. What were you all discussing?
We're answering some questions. I have been
We were
substituted.
discussing upgrades to
Yeah.
discharges.
If you are on TikTok and I got questions, you can come over to YouTube so you can put them in the chat. I am only going live on TikTok for my TikTok community to hear exactly what we are talking about. It is so much easier to ask your questions on YouTube because you can type them out lengthy instead of us trying to scroll to find them. Okay. Randy, you can reach out to me by hervetsvoice@gmail.com and I can assist you. I'm not sure, love, what your question was. Okay. Can MST be non-sexual? Example, veteran punched in stomach and made to give up his or her food. Every day was made tough on veteran. The veteran disappeared from the unit. Would that be MST?
That's harassment.
That's harassment or personal trauma,
Yeah.
not MST.
Personal trauma. Yes.
MST is just what it is, military sexual trauma. That's unwanted touching. You were, I don't want to say, but you were
Yes.
SA'd,
Someone
assaulted.
said inappropriate things, made you, feel the way, but you don't have to have MST. You can be the personal trauma, like Natural said. That's what your situation sounds like with harassment.
Okay. Benny, I hope that answers your question. Hey, thanks for all you do. My husband was denied for sleep apnea, intermediate step of obesity. We talked to a doctor. They said getting a Nexus letter to show a 20-pound weight gain will be difficult to win.
The weight gain would be difficult to win, is what they're saying, or the Nexus to show that it was caused due to obesity.
I think the Nexus showing that yes.
The obesity caused what?
Causes sleep apnea.
Oh. Well, something else would have to have caused the obesity, not. It would have to be like if you had injuries to like your back or your knees and it caused you not to be able to be mobile and you gained weight because your mobility is not where you can exercise and do the movements that you would do to be able to combat the weight loss. They would have to create a nexus. If my back injury did not occur, would me gaining weight lead to me causing me having sleep apnea. That's how it goes. One thing happened, caused another thing, developed into something else.
Yes. All right. This is 5-star information for sure. Thank you. How can we donate for your time and your info? I would gladly donate versus paying for a letter. Digital, you can send me an email at hervetsvoice@gmail.com. Okay.
Don't send natural and FF anything.
Nothing. Natural and FF doesn't even have an email address, so you can't send anything. Can you answer if you submit another secondary claim for something you were previously denied? How can you request a different company for a CMP exam?
Well, if you submit, okay, you were previously denied. So when you submit your supplemental claim with your new and relevant evidence, and then you get a new exam, when you are assigned the new exam, and if it's the company you had previously, you can then call and say, hey, I would like to request a different company.
I hope that digital CEO. Okay. Another question. If a vet was in a combat zone and PTSD was approved for the trigger during that time, Somalia, they didn't issue a combat medal. How can we get the claim for a lesser RQ?
Are you asking if he can still have a stressor if he doesn't have a medal?
Yeah.
If that's the question, then yes.
Oh, she said, how can we get the claim for a lesser requirement?
He can still have a stressor without the medal.
Yeah.
He can do fear. There's there's fear that he can use.
Yeah, you can use the stressor without the medal. Okay. I was wrongfully discharged from the Navy in 03 per COD upgrade from PTSD undiagnosed and one misconduct in 9.5 years honorable, 8 months OTH. Even Gulf War burn pits, 98 burn pits. I hope it gets good. Let me read this again. I was wrongfully discharged from the Navy in 03 per the COD upgrade from PTSD undiagnosed and one misconduct in 9.5 years, honorable 8 months OTH. Even Gulf War burn pits.
Let's see. Oh, it was undiagnosed, so he had a mental condition. Those are being looked at as more favorable. So, I mean, it should go pretty good. So, yeah, good luck. What do you think, Montreal?
It was a COD upgrade from PTSD undiagnosed. Okay.
So their character discharge got upgraded. I'm not.
Yeah, the PTSD was undiagnosed. He was wrongfully discharged.
So now it's a OTH.
Yeah, it looked like it's a OTH.
Well, yeah, he can file his claim for those things. Whatever he feels that is warranted for to be considered, especially under the Gulf War presumptive.
I hope you got that, VA Rick. I hope you got that. I was looking for a few other questions that I got in my chat and TikTok, but it's rolling by a little bit fast. Somebody said it's awesome to find women veterans talking about this. I am on my VA journey fighting for my 100%. Keep going. I'm doing a disability profile assessment for mental condition with a company.
Mm.
Hmm?
But what company?
What company?
Maybe they meant VA, like a VSO, and it's free.
I hope that's what they mean.
Listen, y'all don't want to get me. What do you mean you can't hear us? Can you guys hear us? Put in the chat if you can hear us. Can you guys hear us on YouTube? Please. Medical.
Oh no.
Oh, I can hear you fine. Thank you. Medical. Oh, that was your question. Oh. Look at me. Digital CEO, I'm not sure what's going on with you, but okay. They can hear us fine. Thank you. Medical, just go do some research. Put Medical in Google. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, don't do it. Okay? No. Guys,
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna tell you right now, all the stuff that you are paying somebody to do, you can do what? On your own. I am thinking this will strengthen my case. No. No.
What, getting them?
Yes. No. Have you looked at the contract to see how much you have to pay? Guys, I'm not going to get into this tonight because we're talking about discharge. Look at your contract. Look at what you are signing before you sign it. There are some people who are taking 5 times the amount of your increase. And I'm going to do the lawsuit. I'm going to go over the lawsuit one night so you guys can see what they've been doing to veterans. Okay? Anyway, I got all the way up to 80% on my own, but I'm finding it difficult to get the 100% for PTSD. So I reached out to that company for help.
I'm just going to be the bearer of some bad news. Everybody wants 100%, but everybody will not get 100%. And that's just the skinny of it. I mean, in a perfect world, yes, everybody will get awarded that, but it's challenging. I feel it's gonna get even more challenging with all the changes coming, and I don't know, it's just the same claims are coming in, and the more claims people are putting in, the more reductions I see, the more severs I see. I don't know, guys.
Can I ask you guys, the raters, a question? Do you see the pattern of the reuse of the same documentation from these companies?
I do. I see where they take the name of one veteran off. It's a pre-made DBQ, and they just slap another veteran's name on there, and they may change up a couple of events, but it's actually like the same exact DBQ. And yeah, it's but I wanted to say something about Somalia. I do know that Somalia, they do kind of consider that under the Gulf War for the presumptives also for Somalia, although they never really said that that was a combat, but it is known that to be, they take the veterans like lay statement or saying they were there and engaging in enemy fire and stuff like that. So don't get discouraged if you don't have a combat. we still do recognize Somalia.
Okay, that's amazing to know. There's a lot of people, they think because it's Somalia, they don't have, it's not in the list, So, yes, it was extremely expensive, but I'm willing to extremely expensive.
Yeah, that company. Well, I'll say it this way: if a company requires you to sign something that doesn't guarantee an outcome, then you should probably think twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
If a company makes you sign over your credit card because that particular company likes credit card in advance, you should probably think about it. If they make you agree to say that you're going to see a certain provider and give you like a questionnaire and tell you how to do it, it's kind of hard to escape later if someone poses a question to you that says, were you aware, right? And then at the end of it, because you're the veteran and you're going to be responsible for what's on it, there's no way out for you. Whereas if you just go to an exam and they fill it out and all you've done was show up, there's no harm on your part because you didn't participate. All you did was show up. But if you know about what's going on and you participate, you're now a moving party. And you don't want to do that. I would just say just have a little bit more patience and just, slow down and go through your service treatment records and maybe try to find another connection. And unfortunately, like Natural said, sometimes it just isn't there. But as long as you are properly connected and you have all of the conditions that are going to cause you harm recognized, you've done all you could do, and that's okay. But going out under certain companies and the way that they do their questionnaires and their DBQs and manufacturing evidence could come back to bite you, and you don't want that. It's not worth it.
Okay, now that FF got her niceness out the way, let me say this. Let me say this. Okay. If you had the evidence to support 100%, you would be 100% the way that the VBA does it. You're going to hire someone to give you a DBQ to give you that they presume that they tell you, oh, we can get you to 100%. Here's the part that you're not getting. You still have to come and see the VBA. There is no guarantee that the VBA is going to take that medical evidence that they submit, because if you do not have the evidence to support what that DBQ that they provided you, you will go to a VA exam. If that exam is insufficient in any way, it will not be accepted. If they give us that and they do accept it and your evidence doesn't support 100% that DBQ is saying, then you're going to get whatever that your evidence supports. So if you're 70% for PTSD and we get that DBQ and it says, oh, you have all this stuff and it equals 100%, we're going to go review other parts of your evidence in your record. If that evidence doesn't support that, we're not going to grant you 100%. And then therefore you've wasted thousands of dollars going to this company and getting them to provide you a DBQ that is only going to be considered as evidence on your evidence list on your narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that everybody wants to get to 100%, and y'all gonna go all me. That company cannot definitively say, yes, we can get you to 100. They can tell you that all day. Yeah, we can get you to 100%. And in some cases, it may work. But you still have to come back to the VBA. And it still has to go to a rater for review. So you pay the money, you still have to come and see us, and you still may end up going to a VA and examination. And you just wasted money.
We see it all the time, guys. Just
All
be
the time.
mindful. And you have the evidence already. You all don't need to pay for this.
But if you had the evidence to support 100%, I'm going to say it again, you would have it.
Yes.
You and let me just say this. Nobody gets you 100%.
No.
I don't care how many signs that you see, how many commercials, how many messages, how many Facebook posts, how many TikTok stories, how many YouTube channels. You get yourself the percentage based on your symptoms, your disability, your evidence, your service connection.
You
And
get
we
that.
love
Nobody
giving
else gets
100.
it.
We
Nobody
love
gets
giving it.
Nobody gets it for you.
Nobody gets it. It's your evidence.
For yourself.
But you guys are welcome to do whatever you want to do.
Yes,
we're just here to tell you guys that stop wasting your hard-earned money. Stop going in your TSPs. Stop, taking out loans. Stop doing these 4 payments or learners or whatever they doing to get you guys to get your money. Stop doing that. It is not worth it, because if they file a claim for you and they say, oh, we can get you 10% or we can get you 100%, and they submit all that evidence and you end up with 10%. Well, they said that they was going to get you a percentage. So by law, they've done what they said, or by their contract, they've done what they said. They've gotten you a percentage. Well, any back pay you get is going to them. So how did you come up? You went from nothing to 10% and out of thousands of dollars.
And I don't even know you guys seen the article the other day where the Texas AG had a lawsuit against the VA Claims Insider. They had veterans where they owed them money, okay? $6.8 million. They said that veterans owed them $6.8 million in back pay and fees for contracts and stuff like that. Guys, do your research, okay? So the AG literally had to take these people to court because in Texas, okay, Texas alone, okay, look at the amount of money. If somebody is telling you, I'm going to give you 100%, you're going to give me 5 times the amount of your back pay. So if your back pay is $2,000 times 5, you are giving these people $10,000 for what? Yeah, the math, not math in here. And sometimes veterans piss me off the festivity because I'm like, what are you thinking or you're not thinking? Okay. I've seen veterans call me. They took their TSP money out. They pay $8,000 and people ghost them. And then when they try to get their money back, they get nothing. I actually had a guy the other day. He has a bad misconduct discharge. Okay. The company that he went with told him that they can make it happen. And nothing ain't happening. Nathaniel is happening. Okay. And he's lost it, and he still has that same character of service. And guess what? Now when he calls them, they have his number blocked.
Insane.
Use the common sense. Read.
And this is a free service, guys.
Research. Put it in Google. If you really want to know something about a company, put it in Google. You're going to know.
We gave y'all the tools. We gave y'all free 99. We giving it to y'all. Every day we get up here and we answer maybe the same type of questions all the time. You may not like our answer, but it's the truth. And we're not asking y'all to give us thousands of dollars. We're not, and it's crazy because her vet does consultations and people don't even want to do the consultations. But then we do lives and we give it
All
to
the
you guys.
answers. All the answers. So let's keep
And
going.
y'all still want to pay these people thousands of dollars?
Your
Hey,
evidence is already there. You don't have
yes,
to pay these people.
the
They're
evidence
just tricking
is
you.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, we are taking questions, Kate. Can you do sleep apnea seconded to RLS? I've heard conflicting info.
Restless leg. Here we go with sleep. Y'all, put sleep apnea to bed, please.
Look, Kate put oops on his. Kate already knew.
I know, right?
Kate,
Y'all,
she's
y'all
been here long enough to know.
know how I feel about this sleep apnea question. Listen, how does restless leg syndrome cause you to have a respiratory issue?
It don't connect. It don't connect.
It is.
Digital
You
CEO,
got
it don't connect. The
y'all get
restless
yourself
leg
denied.
and the respiratory, it don't connect.
I
Y'all
have
get denied.
gotten somebody rated for restless leg syndrome. They filed a claim for sleep apnea and they determined that, the veteran didn't have sleep apnea, but he did have restless leg syndrome. So I rated him for that.
Oh, Mr. Jean said I have 10 pending claims I did myself. Okay. All right.
Well, congratulations. Hope you get the service connected. But y'all in this sleep apnea, why is sleep apnea like the most requested question, or why is that such the biggest
I don't know.
disability? Y'all won't connect it. Listen.
Don't worry. After summer of this year, sleep apnea is going to get a rest.
The skinny is. Yes, sleep apnea has been. I've seen it get service connected to certain things, and I've seen it not get service connected. However, the whole thing, the way to get it is if you had it during service. You had it. You
Digital
had a sleep.
CEO, you can ask. It's just an inside joke.
Yes.
It's an inside joke. The majority of people I have talked to that paid for Nexus or DBQ still ended up going to a CMP because the VA found their paid documentation insufficient.
Correct.
Thank you. So a personal statement for Somalia has PTSD was approved for Somalia trigger. So they already recognized he was there. Yeah.
But they have to, so once they recognize that he's there, they would have to what we call concede a stressor. Depending on what he said the stressor was, they would have to concede it and corroborate the stressor.
All right.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, I was deployed and I was yelled at while I was there, and I saw one of my friends, I heard one of my friends got killed, but they wasn't there to see it. They heard it. And then they're still now saying that they have PTSD due to that. Well, you didn't really witness it. You heard about it. I know that losing friends do, affect others, but you have to be directly in the skinny to get that strategy. And then you have to be able to tell us the person's name, when it happened, and what it did to affect you to the point that you are now, so messed up from that incident.
Right. They can do a fear-based if that's what's happening to the person in Somalia.
Yep.
Or hostile activity if that's what was happening.
He was, what she say? He was pinned to a truck, almost suffocated.
Oh.
Well, then that should be able to be
personal trauma.
Yep, that's the trauma right there. Mm-hmm.
I just jumped back.
You're right. The contract did not guarantee an outcome. Any suggestions on a better route? And yes, I'm on the questionnaire part now, but I haven't filled it out yet. I only set my intent to file.
Throw it in the trash from Reed. Just throw it
Run.
away, please.
Run and rip up the contract, delete it, do your. If you don't mind, what are you trying to get service connected?
Brandon, what are you working on? I appreciate the help and information. I really didn't need to hear that, and I really, really appreciate it.
Keep your coins. Y'all see how high gas is, and y'all paying these people thousands of dollars. I was complaining about filling up my car with $40-something. Y'all were giving out thousands of dollars. Stop it.
Digital CEO. I am new to YouTube, so I'm not there on that path as yet. They should get rid of outside DBQs. That way, no one has to worry. Just go to the CMP exam.
Let me say this. Not all private DBQs are bad.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Just some of the DBQs that we get are very, very overly exaggerated by the symptomology.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because they're looking at the CFR and they're checking all these symptoms to meet a certain evaluation percentage.
Yes.
The key is, if the evidence of record doesn't support that evaluation that this DBQ is saying, if you had I've seen this, a veteran has went to a CMP examination, let's say December of 2025, come back February, March of 2026 with a private DBQ. The DBQ they had in December said that they were 50% for PTSD, MDD, insomnia. Come back now, their private DBQ says they're total and social impaired. They have every box checked under the symptomology. We go review their VAMC records. They just had a mental health appointment, and it said, oh, the veteran is doing well. They do not no longer need medication. They are working. They are thriving. The group sessions are helping. How does that support 100% evaluation? And that's what we're trying to say. These companies overinflate. Lumbar back, they're doing 5 ranges of motions of 5, 0. If your range of motion is 5 or 0, how you walking?
Right.
How you walking? How you moving?
I always ask that when I see it. I'm like, how you range of motion? How you walking? How you bending your knee? How you doing anything? Because you will be a stick.
Your radiculopathy is severe. And side note, we don't typically give severe for radiculopathy unless you have wholly sensory problems and your reflexes are so diminished. You're gonna get moderate.
Yeah.
Right.
Severe is a very hard thing to get.
Yes.
And the DBQs are public because everyone doesn't, deal with the VA, and it's okay. The DBQs aren't the problem. What's happening is exactly what Natural just stated. The DBQ is there just to say, hey, this is a general outline of the average set of symptoms that most people feel. Just select the area that shows what you feel. But what people are doing is they're taking the CFR and they're using that for the rating, and then that's determining how they feel. So that's where the discrepancy lies.
Let's see. Lots of misinformation, and unfortunately, most people don't realize that, especially on the internet. Correct. I get paid the 80% for PTSD, but anxiety, social adjustment disorder, and depression was added into it as well. So I can't claim all of those separate, or can I? No, they're under
and not all mental health conditions are rated together, because the doctors cannot delineate which of those conditions are causing the most symptomology. So we rate them together. It's called pyramiding if we rate them separately. So you can claim every mental health except for eating disorder. Eating disorder is rated separate from that's the only mental health disorder that we rate separate from any other mental health.
Correct. My question is, can I say I don't want an ACE exam? Okay. When I got out in 2021, sleep apnea was the one everybody was trying to get. Say it
Still
again.
trying. They still
They
trying.
still trying every day. Every day they still trying to get that.
Thank you, Digital CEO. Get a VSO. That's the free route. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for joining us over here. Thank you all for speaking tonight. I almost made a huge mistake, and I will most definitely be ending the process. Oh,
Oh, good for you. Good job.
for you. Good for you.
yes. PTSD 70%, GERD 30%, tinnitus 10%, allergic rhinitis 10%, and bilateral varicocele 0%, service connected but no percentage, getting paid at 80 for those combined.
Well, I would
It
leave
looks right.
GERD. I would leave GERD definitely alone because GERD now is very hard to increase because of the law change. And then rhinitis, unless you have a surgery, then that's going to probably stay 10. Tinnitus definitely going to stay 10.
I did
You're gonna have
a request for increase the other day for tinnitus.
no, you did not.
I did confirm and continue, and I said this
Oh, well,
was the
yeah,
highest
that's all
rating.
that's gonna. But you, that person, the way you're gonna have to look for stuff, you're gonna have to try to find you some secondary conditions that you have and go that route. That would probably be the safest because what you have now, you need to leave alone.
Is insomnia separate? What do you mean, just Spencer?
If you don't have any other mental health conditions,
I'm not okay. Insomnia. Let's talk about insomnia. And we've talked about it before. Insomnia is a symptom of something. Unless you had a diagnosis of insomnia in service, that is the only way that insomnia can be granted as a standalone mental health disability by itself.
Got it, just Spence? For PACSAT, would you need to show in your medical records you have allergies, always taking over-the-counter Zyrtec, or do you have to have the diagnosis of rhinitis in your medical records?
If you have Gulf War service, that is a presumptive under Gulf War. But if you don't have Gulf War, you would have to claim it. We would do it if you have a terror that we can concede, like your MOS duties. If it exposed you to like some type of chemical or asbestos or something like that, then you can request it under terror.
Yep, correct. I completed my CNP exam, Step 6. However, VA has now requested an ACE exam for headaches, which I did not claim nowhere. And I think a medical opinion for I don't know what. Why?
Maybe something that you claim that
Inverted?
the rater saw that the examiner alluded to the migraines were caused by something. But here's the thing: if the examiner tells us that the veteran has migraines, even if the veteran didn't claim it, and they say it's secondary to whatever, we can infer it for the veteran to claim it. Or if the examiner gives us a secondary saying, yes, the migraines are due to this, then we can connect it regardless of how they claim. But we're not supposed to infer something to deny it.
Correct.
So that
Right.
rater should, if the rater is referring it for an ACE exam and you didn't claim it, then
It should be favorable.
Yeah, it should be favorable. That's the only way that we should do stuff like that.
Right.
All right, let's keep going. How do you combat when your BAPCP not properly documenting what I'm telling him? I've had to do a secure message to correct their mistakes.
Well, there
That's
you
how
go.
do it.
Are you go to the what do you call those people
Patient
that help
advocate.
the patient advocate and request for them to change your PCP?
Yes, correct. Okay. Somebody asked, what are the Gulf War years?
Oh Lord, hold on. I don't know that off the top of my
I
head.
don't know.
No, the Gulf War years. Yes, Somalia is now included. Okay,
Hold on, let me.
let's wait for the Gulf War years. Okay, hold on. Let's see.
I don't know. What is that? 90 and 91? I don't know. And 90, 91? I don't know. I'll let her look it up.
Let me see. Go. Is it 90 to 92?
It's
I thought it was 90 to 91, but I'm not sure.
91. It is. It's August 91. And then the Southwest Asia, well, I call it all Gulf War, but Southwest Asia started what, 2011 to I guess the present, I guess.
Awesome. Okay. If you're TDIU and have other diagnoses that are presumptive, should I file them or should I not poke the bear?
If they're presumptive, then I would say yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead and claim them. If they're not presumptive, go ahead. If you have a in-service event and a diagnosis and treatment, then yeah, you still should claim them. But if it's definitely a Gulf War presumptive, then yes.
All right. Got it. Leave those disability percentage alone and look towards secondary conditions. I still want to consult with your help. He said, got it. Okay. It started when I was in basic 1990 and returned stateside at the end of 1991, early 92. Thank you, Sarah.
That's her presumptive.
That's for Gulf War, I think. There's a shield. There's a storm.
Yeah, there's a shield. There's a storm. Yeah. That's the one where they were covered with all that oil and stuff. I would definitely, in the fire, the fires and over there, yeah, I would definitely, file it. But depending on what the condition is that you're trying to claim.
Okay, I think we caught up on all the. Hold on, I'm catching up on the questions. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Can we show the question? Any day now. All right. There. Let's go here. Condition number 1 was granted secondary to condition number 2. Condition number 2 was granted in 2024. But the symptoms for condition number 1 was backdated only to February 2026 when I applied for it. Can I request 2024 backdate pay?
First of all, that question is so convoluted. What is condition number 1?
Can you please tell us what it is? Can you please break it down for us,
condition number 2? Because what it sounds like is your secondary condition happened before your primary.
Yep. And they're paying you from the day.
And if that's the case, then that is a CUE. Because you can't have a condition that is granted on a secondary basis that happened before your primary.
Yeah. We understand. Okay. Condition number 1 was granted secondary to condition number 2.
In 2024.
Yeah, but the symptoms for condition number 1 was backdated to only 2026. It makes sense. So that's exactly what she just said. It was granted by aggravation. Yeah. Thank you.
What
ladies.
was the second condition was granted
Second
by
was it?
aggravation?
Let me see here. Condition number 1 was granted secondary to condition number 2. Condition number 2 was granted in 2024, but the
well, if the secondary condition was that Tara wouldn't even take effect in this because I'm trying to
What's the condition?
Why the second condition was
what are the conditions, though, Rick?
Because then we can see if it would apply, like if it was a secondary for like diabetes or something, and it was on the tree, then we can.
Because why is the second condition dated 2024, but the symptoms for one only got an effective date of 2026? It don't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Right, because it sounds like the other one is date entitlement arose, whereas the date he's requesting, the symptoms should have been there when the original diagnosis was there, if he's asking for it to be backdated.
Correct.
Well, it depends on what the primary condition is. So if the primary condition was granted under a presumptive and it fell under a presumptive and he had the condition prior to, like if he had, hypertension and he was diagnosed with that in 2010 and he filed a claim and we granted it under the presumptive, then we can go 1 year back. But I'm a little.
Yeah, I need to know what diagnosis he had. This is too much guesswork. Can we know the diagnosis?
Okay.
Okay, hold on. The original condition was colitis. It was granted that first. Then stricture of the anus was secondary to colitis.
Why didn't we do that together?
Yeah. That should have been, it should not have been a separate.
Don't apply for nothing, okay? You hear what they're saying? They shouldn't have been separate. Don't go in the queue. Sit down.
Should have been cholestasis with.
Yeah, with the stricture.
Yeah, that's what it should have been at 1%.
Yeah, You hear that? Sit down. Don't go looking for back pay, okay? Keep accepting future pay.
Wouldn't that be under, that would be like IBS, right?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Then the stricture would be a symptom of the
diagnose. Like, I don't understand. How did
I'm trying to figure out the cholestasis.
Can you tell?
It has that since 2026.
Yeah.
And then the stricture is effective date 2024.
Yep.
No.
They messed up on the dates. Gotta be.
They gotta be. The effective dates cannot. They don't coincide because if they secondary it to the primary condition, colitis, then there's no way that a secondary condition can have an effective date earlier than the primary, because then that means the secondary existed prior to.
The stricture that resulted before the colitis. The stricture was highly aggravated by the colitis.
So then technically it shouldn't have been secondary because the strictures existed prior to. I could see them aggravating it, but
so it was granted by aggravation.
But the condition existed prior.
Exactly.
I don't get to say
just don't go in the queue. I just told you.
That's it. If it were me, I would be looking at that. If it was me and I got that claim, I would actually have to do some research because I don't know how they're granting the
What basis was it? Did his narrative say
Said
direct?
he said the original condition colitis was granted that first, and then stricture of the anus, and then he put the stricture is a symptom of fissures that resulted before the colitis. The stricture was highly aggravated by the colitis.
well, then it can't be secondary. It
Okay.
can be aggravated, but it can't be secondary to the cold because the strictures, the anal fissures happen prior to. So it should have been colitis with.
So this wasn't presumptive.
I don't think
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
He just gave us a CUE on live.
Won't you go back in that queue? That's what I'm gonna know.
I
Do
need
they
to
have a
see it.
separate
Like,
evaluations? Do they have
He said
separate
no.
evaluations?
He said
Huh?
no. He said no.
Oh, well then they granted together.
wait, so we did all this.
Just for you know what?
Was you answering no? Oh, he said separate evaluations. Yes. No
Mhm.
presumptive. Just sit tight. Don't make no moves. Don't try to go get no money because you're gonna lose.
I don't see how you can grant something secondary to something that existed prior to
You're
the
gonna lose.
primary condition.
Sit tight. Sit tight.
It should say cholestasis with anal fissures.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it should say at one evaluation.
I should
That's
probably
what it.
just leave it.
Yeah, he probably should not ever touch that.
Just leave that alone.
But
Don't
even if he does an increase on anything else, if a rater reviews it, they're gonna call a CUE.
sit tight.
Yeah, they'll have to call it.
They'll have to call a CUE.
I mean, you
Because
won't lose anything, but
I'll just come. Yeah, he will.
they'll
He'll
just
lose.
fix it. The
He'll lose
order.
Combine the two ratings, will he not lose something when they combine?
I mean, no, he has the conditions and he's already been paid. They'll just have to fix the mistake. He has the diagnosis.
He got 100 P&T right now, so he's good. Okay.
Well, if he has a separate evaluation, he will lose that evaluation when they combine it. So say he has 24 cosi and then he has like a 10 for the fissures, he's gonna lose that 10. And then
he said I would be 100 without it too, so he's okay.
He's good.
Yeah, they just gotta fix their mistakes.
They'll still fix the mistake though.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like, we're human, guys. We're just,
Yeah. It
Jesus
reminds us
Christ.
every week. Thank you, ladies. I looked at my MyVA. It now has headaches new. Should I call them and let them know I don't want to claim headaches? And what do you think that pending another medical opinion DBQ?
This should be favorable. Is this the one?
Kimberly, leave it alone.
No,
yeah, leave it alone, Kimberly.
I think if they inferred it, they had to have evidence to infer those headaches. Because we, like I said earlier, we're not supposed to infer to deny, especially if you didn't claim it. So something in the evidence. Now, and I could say, they could have done that in error. I ain't gonna say they did not, but I'm just saying we're not supposed to infer to deny. So if they inferred it, they had evidence that you now have headaches from something, migraines from something, and they are getting them, which is blowing my mind what they would go get a medical opinion for if they inferred it.
Right.
Because they had to have evidence that could possibly service connected. There's no, I don't know.
It wouldn't make sense for us to do that to deny you.
To infer to deny it. Correct. So sit tight, Kimberly. Can you please explain step 6 and would they request additional medical opinion in that phase? My apologies. I'm just so stressed. Also, can you have a PTSD ACE exam? Stop being stressed, Kimberly.
Well, step 6 is
Yes,
Think about that 6 is notification, isn't it?
they're getting ready
Yeah,
to notify you
because
of a
7
decision.
is 7. You finished. Well,
Yeah,
6
you're
is
close to the
notification.
end.
Yeah, 5 is rating board, so 6 is they're about to notify you.
yeah.
Now
Don't
they
stress, Kimberly. Just close it. Don't even look at it.
Don't worry about it. Just close it out.
is she already service connected for PTSD?
She said, can
Because
you also have a PTSD ACE? Are you service connected for PTSD, Kimberly?
I
Yeah,
don't
because you
like
can't
ACE.
have a mental ACE.
I don't like them.
Yeah, we know you don't do the ACE. Let's see. I'll see if she said no. ACE for PTSD is
You
wild.
can't have a mental ACE.
Can't have a mental ACE. You have to go see a provider.
Cannot.
So,
A mental health are ACE exempt, I think.
yeah. So call the VA and let them know that PTSD ACE exam is a no-no.
Well, I ain't gonna say that. They should
Or
know.
maybe she's just asking, like, in general.
Yeah.
Or something.
You're welcome, so rich. No more questions? Okay, wait. I just had a CMP exam on the 17th.
Well,
You
what?
can have a CMP
Which did you
via.
have it for PTSD or did you have it for something else? For PTSD. Okay.
Because you can have a telehealth that way. Yeah, you can have it that way. You just can't have it ACE.
Yeah, you can have telehealth, but
Yeah,
not.
that's fine.
You have one on the 17th, and now they probably need to answer some more questions.
Yeah, and you won't have to show up for that. They just got to clarify something.
They have to answer some more questions.
It could be a deferral for clarification on something.
Mm-hmm. Sit tight, Kimberly. You're doing fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, guys. Since we don't have any more questions, you guys are. We have actually been on here for 2 hours. The time has definitely went by tonight. Very much so. So tonight, let's rehash what we talked about. A discharge does not always a dishonorable discharge or whatever type of discharge that you have does not define the rest of your life. Veterans who believe that their discharges was unfair or service connected related conditions, you have options. You can apply to upgrade your discharge. The key is understanding the process and taking action. Remember, I said tonight, you will not know until you apply. And always, you serve, you did your time. Okay. You can get the help that you need from the VA. You can file your VA claims. You can do your discharge upgrade. There are so many different resources out there that you can use to help you with your discharge upgrade. Okay. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to help you. You'll see a video, but make sure that you take time to do some research and get the information that you need. Don't just say, I'm going to just watch a video or whatever and just go with it. Do some research, pull out your medical records, make sure you're connecting the dots. Remember, we talk about what happened in service, how it affected you. All those type of things come into play. Okay. As a veteran myself, I've seen how a lack of information can hold a veteran back. Okay. And this is why we have created this space. We build trust and get you guys the rating that you need. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get a rating. You don't have to sell your soul to get a rating. Okay. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to put in the work. Do the research, go to the doctor, document what you have, the signs, the symptoms, all the stuff that you're dealing with. You can do it. You're capable of doing it. All right. I think we have one more question. You're welcome, Kimberly. Thank you,
I was looking at your TikTok and someone said use Chat GPT to cross-reference M21 and use Chat GPT to do your rebuttals to CMPs. Okay, so let me say, every day, and FF can back me up on this, we get a change in the manual, literally. Some stuff gets rescinded, some stuff get added, some stuff get changed. ChatGPT does not always have the so some information that ChatGPT spits out may be outdated. It may not be able to be applied to your circumstances. We can tell when something has been done by ChatGPT. Most people don't talk like ChatGPT.
Correct.
So be mindful when you are using ChatGPT. How can you use ChatGPT to rebut an examiner? That's what raters do. We will send it back if the information conflicts. If there's clarification needed, we will do that. Well, we are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people putting all their stock in AI and things of that nature. Guys, I don't know if y'all was on here the other day when I told y'all that there was a veteran who used ChatGPT or Bing to ask it what is sleep apnea secondary to, and screenshotted that and uploaded it as their Nexus, and they wasn't even service connected for the things that they were asking for sleep apnea to be secondary to. So be mindful when you are using these chat GPTs to be able to write your, try to write your Nexus or your lay statement. Now you can use it to help you write your lay statement to convey what you needed to say, but just use your own words.
Use your own words. Okay, we have one last question before we leave. I got a CMP exam for IBS, secondary to PTSD. DBQ is Gulf War and infectious intestinal disorder. Any suggestions on what to expect?
So did it say IBS secondary to PTSD?
Yes.
They're not gonna ask for that secondary first. If you have Gulf War service, they're gonna ask for that because that IBS is considered a MUCME. So they're gonna ask for that. If that comes back negative, then they'll ask for the way that you just asked for it, secondary. But typically, if you have a diagnosis of IBS, it will be granted under the MUCME. If the IBS doesn't have if it doesn't have another etiology, something else causing it, that's the only way that it won't be granted under Gulf War. If they find that it's due to something else, the examiner will tell us the etiology of the IBS is this.
That helps. Rough edge. All right. Thank you, FF. Thank you, Natural. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in to listen to us tonight. I hope that the information that you received tonight was very beneficial to you. And I hope that you are able to share it with another veteran in helping them to pursue their disability claims or their discharge upgrades. We will be back on Sunday night and we will be discussing disability and accommodations in the workplace. Okay. What you're allowed to do. We'll talk about FMLA forms. We'll talk about reasonable accommodations. Okay. Because I know sometimes veterans just feel like I'm sitting on top of the world and I need this accommodation. So I want to talk about reasonable accommodations, FMLA, how it applies to your job, how to fill out the forms, what you can do, how to document, and so forth. We are going to talk about that on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to FF and Natural for joining us tonight. It is always a pleasure to have you ladies join me and to answer questions for veterans who enjoy getting their answers directly from the source. So, guys, have a great weekend. We will see you guys on Sunday night. Be careful, be kind, and we will definitely see you around soon. Take care.
You're not alone, you got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed.